The Better Business Analysis Institute
presents the Better Business Analysis podcast with
Benjamin Walsh. Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Benjamin Walsh, and today we will continue on our BA Byte series and we'll jump right into 10 essential techniques for technical business analysts. Now, I've already made comments around technical business analysis, and I believe it fits in more the system or solution analysis side. So this is still a bit of a gray area, and a lot of BAs play in this space, or have to, and this is actually where I first started doing BA. However, it isn't business analysis we're talking about here. It's more around the solution. Okay, so just want to clarify that before we dive in. However, it's always good to know. And by having some technical skills, you understand how the solution may be put in place and it helps. So some of these things, like I said, are in the twilight zone between what maybe an architect, a junior architect would do, or a solution designer would do. But let's jump straight in. Number one is understanding the system requirements, not business requirements. So first and foremost, it is essential to kind of understand what those system requirements are before delving into business rules or pseudo-code. You need to really familiarize yourself with the technical needs of your project. For example, if you're upgrading an e-commerce platform, you need to make sure that it can handle thousands of concurrent users. So how do we do that from a traditional BA point of view and then from a technical business analysis point of view or a systems analyst point of view? So number one for that is around the fact that there should be a non-functional requirement around that. Okay, so that's the BA side, the traditional BA, the business side, and the TBA side, technical business analyst side or systems analysis side. And maybe I'll just use the terms BA and SA. So SA, when I'm talking about technical analysis, their job would be, okay, well, what does that mean for the solution? How are we going to meet that? What is the analysis I need to do to make sure that can be met? So, for example, if you're using, say, WooCommerce or Shopify, there will be stats on that. So this is the system requirement here is then what can the system meet that? Okay, so if you're buying a product, you need to do some analysis on that. And if you're building a product, you need to make that clear to the build team that's really important. Of all the requirements, that's really important. So that's number one, understanding the system or solution requirements there, okay? So it's really taking the business requirement and then looking at the next step down, detailed analysis in the technical sense to the how. Number two, and again, this is on the border, it's defining the business rules clearly. So the business rules, capital B, is this word is used all over the play, all over the show to mean things that are baked into the system, to what someone wants. Business rules, the B, again, aligns with business analysis. It is the BA's job to define the business rules. However, they translate sometimes to validation and system rules in the system. So when the BA has defined the rules in business terms, the technical BA or SBA should be looking at the rules as things like validation. So we need a rule in the solution to make sure that when someone enters their email address, it's a valid email. So it has the @ symbol. You can actually use pinging. There's ways of checking whether or not the email is valid before you allow someone to sign up. And so that business rule around valid email address is the business requirements. The system rule is around validating that and specifying that it needs to have an @ symbol, and you need to confirm email links. So that's around how you're going to do it. Now, the BA may not know technically how that works. So the SA or the technical designer will need to specify that in a bit more detail by writing that up. Okay. So that's number two. That's the business rules clearly and then mapping those down to system rules. Number three is it's around using decision tables for complex business rules. So our third technique is around using decision tables for complex business rules. So these are around different scenarios, okay? So say if I say there's a business requirement or about applying a discount for a loyalty program on purchase amounts. The systems analysis side would actually specify maybe what the table looks like in terms of translating. If I said, if you're tier 1, you get 20%, tier 2, you get 7.5, and then you get 5%, for example, for tier 3, it might be specifying what that looks like in a table, for example, literally not just specifying it in written terms. And by showing that, if someone spent this, you go to you get this. So it's outlining that in lots of details, and even to a point of even writing some pseudocode. So we'll get to that point soon. So decision tables are important, and it's explaining it's by having that document and by providing that to the technical team. Number 4 is around flow diagrams and flowcharts. So you do this in business analysis, but this might actually be the system logic. Okay, so you're doing things like using a visual aid to understand the system logic and the interaction. So you might use it for user registration process. Maybe we've made it really clear that we want the user to be able to register, for example. That's the business requirement. The system requirement might talk about that whole email registration and that what happens when they sign up. This is really low level kind of stuff here, almost procedure level, but stating it for the system designer. So it's around saying that they have to enter a valid email. If they don't, then this is what happens, and drawing that up. Like technically what's happening. Is the system returning something? Is the backend returning something? Does the backend need to send the notification out, the email notification? Do we need to have some kind of mail server that allows us to do that? And when they click on the link, is it going to another secure location? What web page does it return to? So you're really getting into the design side here. Okay, so that's what we mean by that. So it's not process design, it's more the flows of how the system's going to work. Sequence diagrams are used in UML as well for this. Number 5, which we talked about earlier, is about writing pseudocode. So what does that mean? This bridges the gap between business logic and actual code. So you keep it structured and straightforward. It doesn't have to be correct. But say for the login process, you might write down, if username and password are incorrect, allow access, else show error. You're literally writing really low level what we call pseudocode, fake code, if you like, and then whatever language the developer is writing in, they can write that, say in Python or whatever the technique they're using. So that's what we call pseudocode. It's something that a system designer would do or a systems analyst would do. Number 6 is around the fact that once we've defined our business rules and then the system rules, it's making sure that we actually validate those with stakeholders. Okay, so if there are 2 roles, a business analyst and a systems analyst, once the systems analyst has created how the business rule will be implemented and the technical feasibility of that might be quite different to what the business asked for, the business need. So you need to review the resetting of password technique with maybe IT and customer service around security and user experience. And you might go back to stakeholders and explain to them how it's going to be implemented. So that's validating the actual business rules implementation with stakeholders. Number 6. It's really important. I've hit that recently where the business thought one thing and then the system was implementing it another way, okay? And they didn't think about the stakeholders that would all be affected by their design of the solution. Number 7 is about maintaining a glossary of terms. So we sometimes do this in pure business analysis, but if you've introduced new terms as part of the design, then you need to define maybe what user means. And admin's a common one. What does admin mean? System admin? Does that mean full rights? Maybe session timeout? What does that mean? So that's, again, if you've introduced new terminology in the solution design, you need to help clarify what that means And that's something that the business probably needs to understand. Because when you deliver the solution, you go log in as admin. What does that mean in terms of the rights of the solution? So it's number 7. Number 8 is around implementing error handling. This is something that gets lost between business requirements and the developer, because developers, that's why we have testers, they don't always think about what's important in terms of error handling and also what the user wants to see. If they do error handling, it may be for their own purposes and logging, but it may not be in terms of showing the error message to the user, for example. So with implementing error handling, you can do that through pseudo-code and business rules. And you might say if payment fails, show an error to the user, log the fault in the logging technique. These are all things that the BA may not have thought of, but from a system design point of view, you can think about how error handling might be best handled. Does it need to create an alert in your service management system to follow up? Things like that. Number 9 is, again, your job when you're doing the system design is to document the assumptions and constraints you're making. So if you've got an assumption and constraint, you should be talking to the BA and the business, right? Ideally, the BA if you've got one. But there are cases where if you're, depending on the context, it helps everyone if you document the limitations of the project and the solution. So you might write down an assumption, say all users have a valid email address, the system can process payments in 5 seconds. So this isn't the requirement side. This could be what the system requires, okay? So it's almost, say, for example, I've written a business requirement that says that the response time of the website needs to be within 2 seconds, right? That's what I want. That's pretty standardized. Now, the system constraint, because we're building it on a complicated content management system that's doing lots of things, it may actually take up to 3 seconds. So we just say the constraint is that the content management system that we've decided to implement as part of the solution will actually load in 3 seconds. So that's the job, that's the reply. Number 10 is making sure that you continuously review and improve, okay? So what does that mean? Technical analysis is an ongoing process. Okay, after you deploy the solution, you need to gather feedback, you need to analyze the data regularly, and you need to you might need to optimize the system, and the business processes might change as a result of whatever solution you put in place. It's about, it is a bit of a yin and a yang here. So, for example, if you're running stats around how many people have not checked out, so it's called cart abandonment on your website, right? You might tell people that, so then the business knows. So this is around technical business analysis, systems analysis, solution design. There are 10 essential things you need to know when you delve into that. And if you've been forced to do that and you're come from the business side, you need to learn about this. This isn't just a hack job. It needs to be done properly. And yes, it comes more from the solution world. And it's not what I would say is business analysis, but we've all had to do this in some shape or form. So I hope you learned something today, and I'll see you next week.